Well, as you see, I'm on a train again, this time pulling out of Prague on the road to Brno. Yeah, I'm going to save. I've got about half an hour's worth of film, which I'm going to save really for Brno today. It's the first time that I'll be in the centre of Brno. I don't really know anything about it, so I'll just be coming in with fresh eyes. I've been meaning to go to Brno for a long time. It's my birthday today, so it's a little birthday treat for me, apart from the fact that I've got something to do there for work. A couple of things to do. I've got the ability to have a little view of it for you. So we've got quite a pretty scenery here as we get into Moravia. Lovely fringe on the forest there. I love the patchwork of greens that you get on a Czech Republic hillside which is forested. Nice little stream down there, little brown water, but probably just mud from the hillside falling. Yes, this is the sort of place I'd like to run around a bit and enjoy myself just down there. Very nice looking scenery. You can imagine going a little canoe ride through that. This railway line goes from Pardubice through down to Brno, sort of southwest. Southeast. We're travelling. Oh, and there is somebody on a canoe. Just spotted somebody. I don't know if you saw it on the film, but just spotted somebody through the trees. They're actually canoeing down it. So I wasn't the only one to have that idea. Maybe one of the pleasures when I get my weight up. Oh, there's nothing to stop me doing it even at this weight. I was fatter than I am now the last time I went on a canoe, and I wasn't too bad at it. That'd be an interesting film to do, actually. Canoeing down somewhere and filming at the same time. Obviously you risk your camera, but pretty interesting film. Right, I'm going to save something for Brno itself. So although the scenery is very nice, I think I'll stop filming it. Okay, so I'm filming, not phoning. I'm filming the scenery again. Anybody would think this was the same river as I did before, but that would be a surprise. It looks the same, but it might be. But we're now a good 150 or so miles further on, and although the scenery is still quite similar, nice little wooden houses down there, we're now nearly at Brno. Probably pulling into it shortly. They might be like dachas or something like that. I don't know if they're holiday homes. So there's a tunnel. Tunnels are no good. So I take this now to be more sort of suburbs of Brno. That's the police car that you may have just seen going that side of the road. Had the Brno name, Brno Municipal Police, on the side. So I think that this counts as Brno, but we're so much now in the precincts, if you like, what do you call them, suburbs, that can't seem to photograph anything sensible. And there are numerous tunnels. But I'd like to get a feel for the outskirts as well as the... Oh, there's a power station. That's something we can ask to audit. I've got a speciality in power stations. It looks quite nice, that chimney. Can't see any emissions off it, which is a good sign. Mind you, you wouldn't expect an awful lot in the summer anyway. Sort of industrial part. The northeast, which is what we're coming into of any city. Sorry, northwest. What am I saying? Northeast of any city. Yeah, but we're not coming to it. We're coming to the northwest. But normally the northeast of any city is the most industrial part, because the wind prevails from the southwest to the northeast, and so you want to have the industrial sort of smells blown away from where people are living, and so that's usually the northeast. You tend to get more in Europe, in European cities, more of the industrial side, and then the higher cost dwellings, the more sort of prestigious residential areas, are more towards the southwest. It doesn't always work that way. There's other things that need to be taken into account by town planners, such as the lie of the land, whether there are things like rivers getting in people's way, what the exit route is to other more important cities or larger cities that a particular town is dependent on. Oh, nice looking swimming baths down there. I like that. So it's not all cut and dried as to what parts of a city will be industrial, what parts will be residential, etc. Usually there are reasons behind the way things are laid out. Reasons which change over history, which is why things, towns are not built perfectly. Most towns and cities, you can say, which are over a million people. I don't think Brno has a million, but it may be getting on for it. There's an interesting pose of a young lady sitting on a gas pipe over the canal. But if you can imagine, there probably isn't a city over a few 100,000, or even over a few tens of thousands in most of old Europe, which has actually had the number that it has today foreseen by the people that built the first streets in it and set down certain structures which are still there. So it's always a bit of improvisation. Anyway, got to stop. It's station time. Got to get out of the train. Okay, so here I am in Brno. This is just outside that main station. There's a lot of people milling about, most of them in remarkably short skirts, which I can't fail to notice. I wish I could sometimes. There's the old post office. And that's Mazurikova. And according to my little map, all I have to do is walk up Mazurikova and I get somewhere interesting. Seems to be the central area. That flash was from the tram thing up there. So that's the sort of appearance that it has. Raiffeisen Bank on the corner there, quite prominent. To watch out for the trams, because people are just wandering around amongst the trams, and it's quite dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. There's a sandwich board man. That's actually quite nice, quite grand. Brno is not easy to pronounce, of course. B-R-N-O. You have to remember that R actually is a vowel in Czech, as is L. You put a kind of schwa behind the R, so that makes it a vowel, like B-E-R-N-O. That's what it sounds like you're saying, Brno, but they write it just B-R-N-O. Same you get in Serbo-Croat, or as it's now called Serbian and Croatian, and a few other languages where the R and the L basically function as vowels, effectively, because they're carrying a schwa. People standing there selling magazines. In the station I saw somebody selling Watchtower, which was obviously a little bit depressing. So what shops have we got? Well, most of them seem to be ones that I don't know from other places. They might be the same ones in Prague, but I simply haven't seen them yet. But then you get either brands or banks which are known everywhere. We saw Raiffeisen Bank. This city is up here, Citibank, which is pretty international. Rock Point, if it's a chain, I haven't seen it before. Terra Nova, again, looks like a chain, but I haven't seen it before. So it's not that familiar. It's very interesting, I have to say, and it's quite a healthy walk up here. It's actually my birthday, so I need to get a cake to share with people that I see later. And I see Main Square seems to be coming up ahead. Brno is twinned with Voronezh. I spent a year of my life in Voronezh, and there's a hotel of Brno in Voronezh, and I suppose it was said to me that there's a Hotel Voronezh in Brno. I don't know if there still is, because I'm going back 22 or more years. Is it 22 years? I suppose so, yes. And of course the system was entirely different then. I dare say most of the shops here would have looked completely different and had completely different products in them. There's Zimmerman, spelt the Czech way, up there. Almost unrecognisable to the way that we would spell Zimmerman. It's the same name, no doubt. Referring to the German name for a carpenter, or one of the German words for a carpenter. There's also the word Tischler exists. And so we come to this gradually, and there's a much more brighter looking part down there. There's the functionaries. Nice French plat. That's the contents of a Czech bookshop window. Oh, some books in English, like The Last Templar by Raymond Corey. Read it, didn't think a great deal to it. And there's probably what will pass as the main, oh, Humanic, that's nice. So this is what we really wanted the film time for. This very interesting square. Oh, I think that's going to be a memorable place. Let me zoom in and get a few details. On that building it says Moravska Jednota, which means Moravian unity. Nowadays, of course, not only has Moravia been unified with Czechia, but also, of course, it got unified with Slovakia too, to make Czechoslovakia. Then, of course, it got disunified, or the Czech Republic got disunified from Slovakia, and then got unified into the European Union. So there's quite a lot of different versions of unification and disunification that have gone on, and of course history hasn't come to an end yet, or at least it hadn't the last time I looked, which was a couple of milliseconds ago. So still quite a lot could be done. There's an interesting column here, have to see what that's all about. Nice church up there with a Germanic appearance, South Germanic, or Austrian if you like. This looks like one of the Volby vans, as I call them. Yeah, Volber's got Volber on it. So this one's for the European Democratic Party, the EDS. Volba means elections, because we've got the European elections coming up here in Europe land. So there you have it. That looks like a Mary monument. Nice Czech tricolour there with the triangle of the blue and the otherwise the red and the white. It's an interesting table. Honore Beatissima Virginis, pestifera instante cholera. It's a strange. Dote civis libera, senatus renovabant. The certain of the letters which are made large happen to be the same Latin letters. I'm being like a little bit like somebody off the blooming, what's it called, Da Vinci Code now, decoding things. But I've noticed that the letters that have been made large in that sign happen to be the letters which are also numbers. So you've got I, and M is made large, and V is made large, which is the 5, but M of course is the 1000, and then 3 I's, and then you've got another I in pestiferum, instante, cholera, L is 50, D is, what's D now, 500 is it? C is 100, I is 1, V is 5, so if you put it all together, all of those V's and I's and D's and L's and M's, you'll probably get a number by adding them all together. And that number might well be 1831, which is the date of the statue having been put up, according to the number put in not in Latin but in Arabic, as they're called, numerals at the end there. But I don't know. I don't really feel like a mental arithmetic challenge. People can do it later, of course, if it's filmed, as to whether it actually does add up to that date or not. But that's my guess. And if I guess right, well then I go on to the next clue. Almost sounds like live violining, but I don't think it is. I think it's on that recording. Very nice. The prison up there is actually called Spielberg, like Steven Spielberg, but it's a prison that the Austrians had in the 19th century, was most active during the period when it was basically used by Metternich to stamp out all forms of radical, nationalist movement. Anybody that wanted to have a free, free country amongst the Habsburg's lands, pretty much got put in there immediately, in that Spielberg up there. Well, this is actually a lovely courtyard inside the town hall complex. There's lovely ivy running up the wall. And we're inside the town hall, and I'm going to give you a privileged look at the hall in which people get married in Brno, where we are because of the fact of joining a very privileged group of people, most of which have already gone home right now. I don't want to photograph anybody that hasn't given themselves permission, but I walk through the people so as not to photograph anybody without their permission. But then when we come to this area, look at the grandeur of this lovely great big mural here, just to prove that we're in Brno, not anywhere else. Here we have Brno with its famous Spielberg prison, which is a tourist attraction now. The cathedral, various other things, and I'm not entirely sure what they are. And look at that fantastic organ there with the crown. That people get married in front of this desk here, and they usually sign away their maiden names, and they sign into their married names here on this desk here. And there's some crests of various important people within who've made up part of the nobility of the historical city of Brno, which was, as we discovered in the mayor's talk, the mayor gave us a talk here tonight, called the Austrian Manchester at one point because of its industry. So there we are. Right, well, we're here with this part of the film is called Milla Jovovich and the Dragon, okay? Because we are here with Milla Jovovich. You will recognise her, of course, from her various films. And over there, through there, is her own pet dragon, which is a symbol of Brno, which is there in the courtyard of the town hall. So, Milla, what do you have to say? Has that dragon been around for a long time?
Yeah, it is. It's my dragon, and we are together there for a long time. It's
Excellent.
Me, but the dragon.
Okay, yes, you don't look as though you've been around for that long. Okay, thanks. So, there we are again with the lovely dragon, lovely courtyard. And look at this lovely ceiling. It's like the Sistine Chapel in here, it really is. And over there we have Custodes Fidei Publicae, which means custodians of the public faith, which certain members of Britain's Parliament would do well to remember. With all of this expensive scandal which is going on, certain members would do very well to remember the fact that they are Custodes Fidei Publicae. And just in case anybody forgets it, they ought to have it on their ceiling like it is here. My favourite part though is that bird which has got checks on it, like a check pattern. And now I know why this is called the Czech Republic. Sorry, very bad joke there. So there's the town hall again on the other side. And there's this big church with people sitting nicely, having a nice picnic there on the steps outside. And there's Tesco Express with only one S. That's okay because that's how you spell it in Czech. Don't write immediately to Lady Porter complaining about the misuse of the English language, because it's perfectly good Czech, I assume. I'm not an expert yet in Czech. I will be if I can manage it. And so here we are, just enjoying some of the back streets of a new city. And what I like about any new city is that you never know when you're there for the first time what's around the corner. So I'm about to go around the corner and I just don't know what's there. The street already I can see is called Pańska. This is Mechova. And what will be here? What do I see? Well, I see a street with cars parked going one way. I see sort of almost Tudor looking buildings, slightly skew-if because they're probably very old and leaning against one another. It's very interesting. I've got some ladies sitting there having a picnic on the floor. Said please money, which is very good. Oh, I see somebody just did a V sign, but I don't think it meant what he thinks it means. He was just saying he had two of something. I didn't catch what, but he did this lovely two-finger salute, which I assume you couldn't hear from there that I'm English. I assume it was harmless. Not intended to mean what it means to the English anyway. There's Česká Spořitelna, and some interesting architecture going further down there. Always interesting in any city to look at the rooftops just as much as the ground area. Ground area is often quite similar because you've got shops that are all the same, whereas tops of buildings tend to be much more unique. And they tend to give much more of a clue as to the history of any place. You should always, if you go around any city, you should always look up as much as at the same level as your head. Another good reason for looking up is that you might find that there's falling bricks if you've got a building site there. Of course you can't look up for too long because you're going to get a stiff neck if you do. Well, I'm looking forward to getting on the train and getting a really cold bottle of fizzy mineral water. That's what I like. And it's very healthy despite what people say about fizzy. Ah, that's interesting. There's a crab, not a crab. People say crab in Polish for this, but it is a lobster. And again, we're back on Masarykova, which is where we came up, the street we came up on, in the bookshop that I saw earlier. I may have even taken a bit of a photograph of what was in the what do you call it, in the shells. And there's that big square that we looked at earlier. So since we've seen this, but we haven't seen the lobster. Don't know what that lobster's doing there over the chemist shop, but there it is. And there's another one on that. Just next to it, there's another little one on the on this piece of plaster here. And then, just for good measure, there's yet another lobster on the door here. So they certainly like their lobsters in that house. Now, as we've seen this already coming up, I don't think I need to film it again. Right, so I'm back on the train. This is another first class coach, much more similar to a Polish one, and it's called the EC70. Gustav Mahler is the name of the train. They all have these little brochures in. This one's got information about a dog's home that you can give to in order to help these charming Charme, Charakter, Treue und Witz, which is charm, character, faithfulness and jokiness. Ein Freund fürs Leben, a friend for life, which is all very well, but dogs don't live as long as human beings, but nevertheless it's probably the dog's life that they mean. Oh, there we go. Magic. I just have to turn the film on, I get a phone call. So sorry about that. That was another friend of mine calling for my birthday, very kindly. If you've seen my Berlin tour with friends, then that's the friend who took me around Berlin on that one. Very kindly remembering my birthday, giving me a phone call. He was obviously ringing from not his usual country, so I didn't quite recognise it at first. So yes, there's lots of PowerPoints in this. I'm doing my phone on at that end. I've got my computer fired up at this end. So it's another one of those things where I've got the whole compartment to myself. This is what you call first class. And I've got 2 hours when I can just completely recharge all the batteries and everything that I've got, plus charge my own batteries so I don't have to share the space with anybody. And yeah, here we are. Gustav Mahler, that's what I was about to talk about. You get this thing, it's got the thing about the dogs in I talked about before. It's got this interesting thing about Dr. Adolf Schwarzenberg. Here he is, Adolf Schwarzenberg. Perhaps not the best first name, but then again he was born in 1890, and then that was kind of like a very popular name at that time. Anyway, he was a fearless opponent, I'm reading what it says, of the Nazis and the occupation of Czechoslovakia. As he stood for the rule of law and democracy and opened the garden of his palace in Vienna for Jews in 1938, he obviously those things made him a bad boy in the eyes of the Third Reich, so he had to escape to Italy in 1939, and afterwards he took refuge in the USA. Obviously he wasn't best of mates with Mussolini either, so he ended up in the USA. This gentleman, well, even when the Nazi secret police, the Gestapo, which is the Geheime Staatspolizei, of course, had seized all his estates in its sphere of control in 1940, he continued to support the exiled government of President Benes financially. But he was denied to return to Czechoslovakia after the end of the war by the government of President Benes, which is a bit of an ungrateful thing, isn't it? And the Czech government has withheld his stolen property illegally till today. www.restitution.cz, you can click on that. I'm not saying that it's true. All I'm saying is I'm not saying it's false either. It's not. I don't know whether it's true or false. I simply don't know. But I'm just saying that it's an interesting thing to have put there in a train brochure. Just an interesting thing to have there in a train brochure. I hope it's not true, but you know, why would they write it if it wasn't? So, anyway, I'll leave you to make your mind up about that. Gustav Mahler. There's a little bit of biography about old Mahler here. Wurde am 7. Juli 1860 in Kalisz geboren, and I got it in English as well. Gustav Mahler was born on 7th of July 1860 in Kalisz, and that's what the train's named after him and his various pieces of classical music. Here we have on the back Sicherheit im Zug in German, talking about more messages. In Brandfall, what happens if there's a fire? You have to use the fire extinguisher, and here you have a picture of what happens when the fire extinguisher goes off next to it. Yeah, that's everything in the brochure of the Gustav Mahler, and I'm coming into Prague at 23:31 to Prague Hlavní nádraží, which means main station.